Welcome everybody to Eat Green to Go Green, our webinar that is hosted by Ahimsak Eco-Vegan Committee of Jina, the Federation of Jain Associations in North America. A lot of our audience is Jain and will be familiar with Namaskar Mantra, but for anyone who is not, because this webinar is open to all, it's our most important prayer that most of us have learned as children, and we start all of our programs with that. And so with that, I'd like to tell you a little bit about our series, and then I'll introduce the speakers. And as we go along, I'll introduce our panelists who will help with facilitating questions. And you can all leave your video on. We're going to keep people muted for the most part, just so that we don't have background noise. When you have questions or comments, you can put it in the chat box, especially as the speakers are giving their presentations. And then we'll have our panelists to help read the questions and add in their own questions and interact with all of you. So we're really happy to have you here with us today. I'm going to start by just presenting a few slides about our series and about the committee. As I mentioned, this is hosted on behalf of the Ahimsak Eco-Vegan Committee, which is part of Jina. And, whoops, sorry. So as expressions of Ahimsa, our committee supports veganism, which is not eating, wearing, or using animal products. We support the reduction and elimination of activities contributing to global climate change and destruction of the planet. And we support personal transformation, community education, and advocacy. This webinar is part of that mission. We started our Ahimsa in Action Speaker Series, spotlighting inspiring visionaries and activists last year with a presentation from Shah and Shilpi Shah on Love in Arms, an American animal sanctuary. And today we're presenting Eat Green to Go Green, and we'll introduce the speakers shortly. And coming up in April, we'll have another presentation called COVID-19, Changing the Paradigm Away from Animal Experiments Towards Human-Centered Methods. And that last slide about how to reach us, I will show at the end. But we have a website called veganjains.com, and you can email us as well there. One thing I wanted to do is remind everyone that there is a Jain declaration on the climate crisis, and we have suggested some specific action. So I want to show you what we've suggested. And then at the very end, we'll have another poll that Nurali will help facilitate, and we can open up the camera's already open, but we can open up everyone's microphone so that we can have a little bit of sharing at the end. So we're moving into a bit of a more interactive part right after I show you what we've already suggested in terms of the Jain Declaration on the Climate Crisis. So bear with me for another few minutes for a presentation, then we'll go to the interactive part. So let me share my screen. We will make available the location of this Jain Declaration on the Climate Crisis after the conclusion of this meeting. So this was a declaration that we wrote, and it was endorsed by the Jain Executive Committee in October of 2019, and we want to make others aware of it and seek your endorsement also. And so the motivations for writing this is that we wanted to learn as individuals and communities about climate change or the climate crisis in order to live in line with our principles to promote health for all living beings and to add our voices to those of other faith traditions. So Hindus, Buddhists, Christians, Jewish people, various Islamic sects all have declarations, but all we had as Jains was a 2000 statement on Jainism and ecology. So it was time that we had something representing Jainism and ahimsa. A lot of the scientific information that Sudhanshu presented is incorporated in the early part of the declaration. And what I'll show you in slides are our recommendations for action. So this is to stimulate us all now to think about what we can do. So in the declaration, what we've presented is that as individuals, we can continue avoiding meat and eggs, minimizing the use of water and avoiding food waste. We can also eliminate dairy to transition to a completely plant-based or vegan diet. We can limit our transportation-related impact on the environment by limiting their use of cars that use fossil fuels, transitioning to a car-free lifestyle, car sharing, using electric vehicles, reducing flights. And then in terms of our home and other energy uses, to live in smaller homes and use renewable energy sources such as solar, to buy less material goods, and to consider the impact of our work and business on the climate. This is kind of an individual household level. As a community, what can we do? Well, we can continue to learn and teach ourselves about climate change, and then consider the availability of public transportation and where to locate our temples, continue to minimize food waste in community events, facilitate carpools, serve only vegan food and use only vegan items and rituals, eliminate styrofoam and single-use plastics, use reusables when we can and otherwise compostable or biodegradable so that we're not adding to landfill, and to consider energy-saving technologies and solar where possible in our temples. This is just an illustration of what happens to all the plastic that we use. And I've been mortified by seeing how much plastic has been used in India and in the US because it's been so cheap. It ends up in our oceans, like the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which has 8 million plus tons of plastic, and there's 4 more of them around the world. We don't want to add to this, choking up the life in the oceans and eventually coming back to harm our own health. And so we have a lot of proposals for business and government leaders. I know there was a message in the chat about how we can lift up the role of diet and agriculture in climate change. And so we have a few suggestions here, and we can discuss this more. So the idea is to demonstrate that we value peace and health of all living beings in our policies and institutions, rather than allowing some to benefit at the expenses of others. And so this involves facilitating the transition to agriculture that supports all living beings, reverses the process of global heating, which is a more extreme way of saying global warming, and associated extreme weather events, and supports regeneration. Removing subsidies like for meat and dairy industries and for fossil fuels will help eliminating favorable treatment for certain industries, and then incentivizing research and development of new agricultural practices, imposing prices on carbon like Sudhanshu has been working on. These are all kind of policy and government level steps that can be taken. We can also ask to invest in public transportation, include using renewable technologies, to ban non-biodegradable plastic, to protect living beings on undeveloped land from deforestation and exploitation, and to support practices and vetted technologies to actively remove CO2 from the atmosphere. This can be planting trees, what we consider as, sort of vetted and massive reforestation practices extending from that, as well as research and development of new technologies. So this is just to review some of the steps that we've already sort of developed and put out there for endorsement by the community. So I'm going to stop share at this point. And I believe maybe this is a good time to transition over to a poll that Nirali can post up. And in the meantime, maybe people can think about, their own kind of takeaways from this webinar. So go ahead, Nirali.
Yeah, thanks so much. I put it in the chat, and I believe it's sharing the phrases that you enter on the actions you're inspired to take today based on what we've learned are popping up on the screen, and they'll just keep popping up as you type them in. And I would say this was very inspiring, and sometimes there's information that we've already learned and heard before, but gathering together as a community and keeping the conversation going and pushing ourselves to the next level is also really powerful for me. And it's just a good reminder that we don't become complacent with our knowledge, but share it and inspire each other. So thank you to all the speakers and the panelists and Jina for organizing this.
So for those of you that may not be viewing the screen, the question is, what actions are you inspired to take? And if it's pretty difficult to use the poll, you can put it in the chat, as some folks are doing already.
Yeah. So people are writing, contacting legislators to make them aware of the urgency of plant-rich diets to save the planet, reduce food waste. And on the screen, you can see, you know, committing to vegan diet more, doing more recipes, talking to community and other people to make impact, inspiring others, getting an electric vehicle, promoting veganism to others in the community. That's a common theme. Trying vegan food.
This is great. And we'll really do our best to help support you on your journey wherever you are, and to help all of us support each other as a community and as part of the global community, so we can keep on helping.
And just as a housekeeping item, this has been recorded, and we'll send a follow-up email with some links that were mentioned today and a link to the video, so you can share it with others. You'll see that in the next couple of days.
I love this comment about educating our community and mentioning our sweet animal friends. It's really beautiful. Lots of these responses are wonderful to see. And maybe we can wrap this one up, as wonderful as it is, because I think we have one more poll as well.
Yeah. So this is great and very inspiring to see what everyone's talking about, and keep these discussions going wherever you are and the people you're around. I'm going to move to the next one, which is more informative for this group to understand what you would like to learn more about. So you can type in a phrase of like a future topic you'd be interested in, and others can upvote, you know, the topic, so we can really see what rises to the top, so that Jina and group can think about what to plan next for you. So hopefully this will work. Yeah, so you can enter topics, whether it's you know, political action, just based on what was said in the previous one, community engagement, political action. I have lots of information on that.
Well, we'll ask Sudhanshu to share his vegan chocolate chip cookie recipe in particular.
And there's a good comment by Sudhanshu about not being too rigid because it's easy to fall off your diet. And that's a good point about all behavior change, that nobody expects you to make a change to an absolute state in one moment. I think for many of us that have made these transitions, it's a process, and it's about gradually making change in achievable measures that are sustainable, and doing a little bit more every time to achieve what you are trying to accomplish. And that's the Jain way, right, for so many of us.
It looks to me from the chat and from what we've gotten so far is that people are really interested in more interaction about nutrition topics and recipes. So like the practical and the sort of scientific discussion around food. So I think we can arrange that. That's definitely something on the agenda. And I appreciate that there are some other committees in Jina and some other people that are actively working on trying to get a vegan vegetarian symbol on packaged foods to help identify what is suitable. So I would refer you to this new committee. There's actually another group that's working on that.
Can I say something?
Please. And please show your video. Maybe we can stop this share and then we can show your video and you can go ahead. We have one final poll, but I'd like to hear Dr. Modi talk too. Go ahead, Dr. Modi.
Just a comment. I think this is an excellent presentation. I had a little conflict with two other committees. I am a vegan since last about 6 to 7 years. I'm a practicing physician, retired about 5 years ago. I would say I had a number of health problems, and since last about 5, 6 years, my health has improved much better. I would say I'm much healthier now than I was 20 years ago. Um, in 2018 and 19, I was a president of the Jain Center of Southern California, and I made Jain Center of Southern California officially a vegan Jain Center, where during all official functions of the Jain Center, only vegan meals will be given. I think it's a great initiative. What you are doing it is excellent. I have a full support of your activity, and at a Jaina level, I am going to escalate your committee's presence and activity all the way, and people will hear more and more about it. So please keep me involved into your activities, and I will make sure that all the announcement that you want to do it, it goes to the Jaina. We have several other way of um, uh, making our Jains vegan, and you have my support, and I will do anything uh, that I can. And my goal will be at the Jaina level. Uh, we want to see that all the Jain centers becomes officially vegan. And to that effect, I think uh, uh, one of the activity that I like to do and we want to do would be approach our Jain acharyas in India, because I think there is some significant resistance on part of the acharyas, not maybe all, but quite a few, that they, well, a lot of Mahavira and 2000 years ago, we were using dairy. Dairy is part of our culture, and maybe we can become vegan. And some of the places where cows are humanly treated. So I think if we are able to convince many of our acharyas, I think our message will become little more easier to spread and streamline, even though younger generation in the US is much easier to. In fact, I think the younger generation, they're more of a vegan than the older generation that came from India and cannot give up the dairy. So these are just my general comment. I think this is a great work, and you people have my full support. Thank you.
And Dr. Modi, we really appreciate your support now, and we were all very excited that Jain Center of Southern California was the first center to go fully vegan in North America. And the Jaina Convention in 2019 was held there. There was one fully vegan day. Dr. Modi had a wonderful educational booth, and we are going to take you up on getting your full support from Jaina and working together as partners. Really, really appreciate it. And at this point, I think we'll open it up for others. You can unmute and you can make comments. I know some folks might have to leave, so this is kind of the informal discussion part. If anybody would like to comment on how they see us moving forward as a community, or any questions or points that you have personally, this is your time. You can go ahead and unmute, and we will request one at a time. So if one person starts, please just, let's just have one comment at a time.
One other comment, general comment I want to make it. We have a Bhagwan Mallinath endowed chair at the Loyola Marymount University. We established the chair about, I think, 3 years ago. Dr. Christopher Miller now is holding the chair. He is vegan now. He is in ahimsa in a big way. Last Thanksgiving, he fasted 24 hours. So we kind of asked him, and he said, well, millions of turkeys and everything, they are being slaughtered, and he didn't feel like eating anything, even vegetarian food, even though he's a vegetarian. So he fasted, and then Jaina picked up on his offer. So now we have a special committee. So this year, on the Thanksgiving Day, we want to see that we will have a 1,000 people fasting, Jains or non-Jains, and we want to spread the message of ahimsa, vegetarian and the veganism on a wider scale. And I believe that now that's an established committee of a Jaina, and it would be very good to have join the hands of this Ahimsa Eco Vegan Committee with that committee, because I think the message is kind of similar message. So uh, I think that would be great. How often do we have this kind of a seminar, Gina?
We have the next one planned in mid-April. So this is the second one.
Okay.
It looks like about every 6 weeks is necessary so that we have enough time to plan and publicize and have time for follow-up between them. But certainly I'm open to others organizing, and I can help facilitate. It doesn't have to just be our small group. In fact, after the next one, which is going to be on alternatives to animal experimentation, following that, Mohit Jain is organizing a talk by Mercy for Animals. So we have another topic in the queue. And then we'll have, after the Jaina convention, we'll have others planned. So we can certainly have Dr. Miller talk about the committee or other academics. I know Brianne Donaldson also has been very supportive. That would be another wonderful topic to explore.
Thank you.
Well, we'll give it another minute or so if anybody wants to unmute and say anything.
Can I say something, Jina?
Yes.
Okay, I would like to hear from whatever I heard from, Modi, Dr. Modi. Okay, it's a great idea to start with. Once the Acharya are convinced, then the whole thing will go very good in India, plus here in the America. So please, Dr. Modi, we are doing the Vaya Vach program. So we still have some more ideas to tell, Acharya Bhagwant, and we can, go from there. So it's really nice for, Dr. Modi to say something like this, and let's go ahead and move.
I think that gives us this Vayavach committee that that I'm chairing, and we raise the funds. We have now $850,000 in last 2 months that we raised, and our goal is $1 million and above. We want to upgrade Vihar Dham, maintain, build a new one, and help our sadhu sadhviji in every way that we can, including medical help. And I believe that that activity will give us a little bit of an opening, and I believe that they may be more open to listen to us in some capacity. And there are, during my last year India visit, I met 3 or 4 Gachadipati Acharya Maharaj Sahib, and I think they are willing to listen to us, and it may take a little time, but I think we should try it, and I'm pretty sure that it will happen someday, if not sooner. Okay, thank you.
Hey, Gina, can I just add a quick comment?
Yes.
So, as far as acharyas go, I don't know of anyone who's actually made that commitment, but we know that Chitrabhanuji and Pramoda Ben, who are very influential. Of course, Chitrabhanuji passed away a couple of years ago, but they became vegan in the 90s, and they did a great amount of work to promote it within the Jain community and outside of the Jain community as well. And a lot of the Shramani and Shramanjis have also gone vegan. And so there is this movement, and we're seeing this happening over, the last 25 years. And so it's just a matter of time. I think we have to keep pushing, but any concerted efforts we do, I think, can help. And this is one of those areas where, like when people came to the US, and then a lot of our religious leaders said, oh, we have to come also and support the community. This is another great area for Jains and our, lay people, right? So Shravaks and Shravikas to do this, and then to pull, our, monks and nuns, sadhus and sadhvijis along in the way, and then they can then further promote it. So I think it's happening. It's just going to be more work, and yeah. So
yeah, I agree. I agree. It is definitely happening. We have some videos of various sadhus and sadhvis on the Vegan Jain site. There's a little category called aesthetics, and there's more and more of them, from a Digambar Muni to Svetambar and Stanakvasi sadhvis and sadhus. There are more of them that have actually been recorded as giving statements and encouraging their followers to give up dairy. So I think it is important to continue to try to talk with the acharyas and other leaders. But as Saurabh said, this is a movement that's already started. And so I fully have faith that it will happen. Now, the sooner the better for ourselves, for the planet, for the animals. So we want to continue to put our full efforts into having this happen sooner.
Hi, Jina, this is Yogesh. Is it okay to make a couple of comments?
Please, and if you don't mind sharing your video, that would be wonderful.
Right, actually, I have some video issue going on, but
Okay.
I wish I would just a couple of the comments here. So first, thank you to all the host and co-host for the today's discussion. It's a great discussion. It's a great topic. And we are doing this since last 10 years. At least I'm part of it on and off with all you guys. And I can see that where we were 10 years back versus today, it's a big difference, even in our small community. So that's a great job, all of us. The thing is, the point that I just put as a comment is the Jain, the vegan vegetarian symbols on packaged foods. I think the idea mobilized last year. I think the second half, we started looping up the Jina also on that topic. And then formally they approved a committee there. And that's the committee where I'm working with Prem Bhai. And we are planning to make more progress this year. Our first idea is to explore, first collaborate with all the similar mind people, including Hinduism, Buddhism, veganism, all kind of things, so that we can strongly lobby US Congress and Senate at Washington to make a little more thought on this concepts, to have the color code or some symbols on the packaged foods. So that is, I wanted to let you all know that we started last year. It was a slow start, but this year we are going to make more progress. That's what we are committing on that. So just as an update. Other than that, I agree with Jaswant Bhai what he said. I think this is a great idea. Jaswant Bhai is doing awesome job at all fronts at Jaina, including Vayavash committees and all the places. Veganism is in his core heart. So I think we tried here also in JCNC, lots of hiccups, lots of like issues with one tradition versus another traditions. Again, the point goes to the same thing that our sadhu sadhvis are still using. How come we can say it is not? Particularly, I'm talking about the milk products and ghee and all the diya and all those things. So again, we have to be, I personally think that we should stay positive on that. This is all good things, is a good discussions. We have to take everybody together to this goal. And we need to convince as and when we move forward with all these sadhus, sadhvis, and the actual core leadership. That's where they drive this Jainism. That's where all the teaching, preaching comes from. So I think we can make big difference, but it is a long way to go, and we continuously try it out. Of course, we need to continuously come up with this kind of session and discussions wherever possible. That's really helps. And that's all I just wanted to say. I would stop here. Congratulations and thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much for giving us more background about that. And it's also good to know that you're going to join hands with other like-minded organizations, because we Jains in the US are a very small number, and it is important.
The suggestion I have is, first of all, the idea or suggestion Dr. Modi, had for spreading this word to Jain Acharyas, Sadhus and Sadhvis in India. And you also mentioned about, sending the video. The only thing, if we have not done it, my suggestion is to prepare something in Hindi, because many of the sadhus and sadhvis and acharya, most of them will speak and understand in Hindi rather than in English or Gujarati. So if some way you can dub it in Hindi, or somebody can translate in Hindi, that would be very helpful.
So this is a really good point. There is a Jain declaration on the climate crisis translation to Hindi, which I've just been working on with someone to tune up. But what the videos that I was talking about are videos of those sadhus and sadhis and munis speaking in Gujarati and Hindi. So there are people in India that have been presenting information and videos to our sadhus and sadhis in those languages that are best. And then these sadhus and sadhis are taking the next step of turning around and teaching it in those languages to their followers. So it's happening. It's not happening in as wide a scale as we would like, but it is happening, and we will continue to try to have more information. Now, I don't want to pretend that we in the US are the best people or the only people working on this. There are actually a growing number of vegans in India that are actually advocating very effectively. It's just small numbers compared to the rest of the community. So we need to partner with them, support them, and do our best so that we really can amplify their voices in India, right? And so I appreciate everybody's conversation in the chat box. And now as we're unmuting, great thanks go to the presenters, Reshma and Sudhanshu, to our facilitators, Saurabh and Nirali, to the Jaina leaders that have commented in the end, Dr. Modi, Yogesh Bhai, to everyone for participation. And I'd like to close now. So I'd like to close just the way that we started, with a Namokar mantra. Om Namo Arihantanam. Om Namo Siddhanam. Om Namo Ayariyanam. Om Namo Vajrayanam. Namo Loye Sava Sahunam. Eso Panchanamukaro Savapava Parasano Mangalanam Jasavesim Paramam Have Mangalam. Thank you, everyone. Jai Ahimsa. Bye.
Bye. And thanks, Jina and Christian, for everything you did.
Thanks.
Good to see everyone.
Look out for a follow-up email.